Okay,
Oh,
I can hear you.
All right,
You
good.
got me?
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna mute,
This is Jim Glenn.
and we are streaming on Facebook. So,
Okay, no problem.
okay. Oh, wait a second. Now I lost you. Facebook. So,
Okay, no problem.
okay.
Okay.
The problem's on our end. I gotta be creative. I'm sure you've done. So like, you might have to go through a couple different. Yeah. Say something again, Commissioner Glenn.
Jim Glenn, can you hear me?
All right, now we're in business.
Sounds good. Good hearing your voice.
How are you feeling?
I'm a little bit better. I still have one more operation to do.
Okay.
I've had 4 medical procedures and I got one more to go.
Sit right there.
Yeah, I guess you are. That's where Maria put you.
Why Maria pushed me there?
Yeah.
I think
We are streaming live on YouTube, by the way. So I'm gonna mute us for a minute, Mr. Glenn, until we
No
start.
problem. I'll sit there very quietly until you're ready.
Jim Glenn, it's good to see you.
Hey, listen, it's good seeing you too, man. Life treating you well?
I'm doing okay. No complaints.
I hear you. I'm taking it a day at a time.
Okay.
And we have our streaming on YouTube, just to let everyone know.
Okay.
Brandon, did you tell him about that you needed to speak just a few minutes?
No. I have we did some trials on the audio video system here in the office. So I can speak on that at the beginning of the meeting if you all would like. And you can let me know if you have any difficulties hearing.
As far as I'm concerned, I can hear everything.
Great. I'll read. Yeah.
It's better than it was last time. I can tell you that.
Good. Unfortunately, when I was just talking to you all, I was facing the television when I should be facing the microphone.
I see. Good morning. How are you? I did. Thank you so much. I spoke with, oh, but I did get.
Yeah.
Marie. Yes, yeah, we spoke on the phone.
So how you might see today? Ooh, a badge. I'm official. Oh, there's a chair on one. Is he out of town? He can hear you. Hi, Chair.
Hey, Doris, how you doing?
Okay. I'm not used to seeing you alone.
Yeah, traveling again. So
Where are you at, Maldives?
no, I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay.
My home
Yeah.
state.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Over there, Tyler.
Okay.
Oh, you're from Tyler?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I stuff out of it. It's my motion for the Intercultural. Oh, I might put it over there, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Wonderful.
You can?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Sorry, guest room one, two.
Yes.
Okay. Is everybody ready for Thanksgiving? We'll get in there.
Right.
Have some unexpected guests coming.
Yeah. So it's 9 o'clock, and by my count, doing this remotely, we have a quorum. So the first order is to call the meeting to order and ask for a confirmation of the quorum and the public notice.
We have confirmation of quorum and the public notice was sent.
Okay. And I know we have public participation. We have 2 guests today. Are we anticipating hearing from them now or at the end of the agenda?
I believe that the agenda says, I'm sorry, that now,
Okay.
beginning.
Okay. Well, who's going to introduce our guests?
One.
I can briefly give an introduction. I'm sorry, I missed it. Are we ready?
Thanks. Is that okay?
We're ready, yes. Are we gonna?
I can sit here.
See.
Maybe put Kat at the head of the table because she's gonna be speaking the most. I'll sit next to her in this, not, so I think over here, so.
You can sit this in.
Sorry, the
I don't know about
apologies for our tardiness as well.
I wish what have speakers to.
Good morning.
What's coming up?
Morning.
Are the speakers gonna speak?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good morning, Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. So my name is Juan. I'm the staff assistant for the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights. In the last meeting, we had 2 speakers. We had Mr. John Colin with the Kentucky Refugee Ministries talk about the refugees and immigrants and asylees. I think the topic, and also we had Mr. Charles Johnson with the Henderson Human Rights Commission, and both of them generate more discussion. I believe the commissioners wanted to have more information about immigrants and refugees, and also wants to learn about what other human rights commissions are doing. So Mr. Johnson with the Henderson Human Rights Commission suggested to invite Dr. Alisa Warren. Dr. Warren, thank you for taking time to be with us. So Dr. Warren will be sharing information about her work, and also she's the executive director of the Missouri Commission on Human Rights, and also the president of the International Association of Official Human Rights Agencies, IAOHRA for short. Also, we do have a speaker from the 2 speakers from the Catholic Charities. We have a Colin Tripplet, director of the Intercultural Services, and also have a Katrine Bridle, the Hispanic Services Coordinators. They're going to share information about their service that they offer to immigrants and refugees. So let's start with Dr. Warren.
Thank you, Juan. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Great, great. Well, good morning. Good morning. I am going to, if I can, I'd like to share my screen. I just have a few quick slides that I wanted to share with you. Let's see if I can make this work. Oh, it's disabled. Okay, it's not going to let me do it.
I can set that up. Give me just a second.
Okay, okay, no worries. Well, as Juan mentioned, I'm housed in St. Louis, Missouri, and so I'm not too far from you. I was just over near your area a few weeks ago for an event in southern Indiana. So we have the Henderson, Kentucky Human Rights Commission is a very active member of IAOHRA, as well as Kentucky, and I have really enjoyed kind of getting to know the folks there and working with you. Our member agencies are all across the country and even some globally in Guam and in other areas. So we have been around 75 years. Since 1949, we have been doing this work. And I've served as president this is the end of my second term. So I have about maybe 8, 10 more months to go as president, but it's a really amazing organization of individuals like me who enforce the human rights laws in their jurisdictions. And so they might be over a state, like I am, the state of Missouri, or a city, or a county, and they enforce the human rights laws in those areas and also work with the federal government, such as the EEOC and HUD, for discrimination enforcement. And so that is really the lion's share of what we do, but another part of what we do is education and outreach to communities, businesses, employers, property owners, and community members across our jurisdictions. So we are very busy doing that work, but let me see now if it will let me. Oh yeah, it will let me share. Let's see here. Let's see. I've got too many things open, don't I? All righty. I'm going to share the content. Well, let's see. I have it open. Give me just one moment to see if I can find it here. Well, how about all those emails I've got open? How's that? Wait just one moment. That should not be. Okay. I had just had it open a moment ago, so give me 2 seconds to find it again. Okay. Here we go. Now let's give it a try. All right, there it is. All right, am I sharing now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. I wanted to do full screen. Let's see if I can make it be full screen. Ha, ta-da, we got it done. How's that? It should be on your full screen now. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, as Charles Johnson had mentioned, and also Juan, a little bit more about what's going on with new immigration policies in the United States. And so, and to really discuss what our member agencies are doing and how we're somewhat partnering with the ACLU on a few things as it relates to these changes in immigration policies in our country. So with that being said, there have been, as you all are very familiar, everyone is familiar, recent crackdowns across the country, primarily targeted or focused by ICE and Border Patrols, and they're implementing large-scale operations to detain what is perceived to be undocumented individuals in our country. But the operations are largely focused on Democratic-run cities, and they've expanded this enforcement to even increase a broader group of individuals more than they had before. The scope has been increased, and the actions and efforts have become more aggressive and quite frankly frightening for a lot of people. So the aggressive actions have really taken place largely in major cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and then more recently, I think just last week or maybe even this week, Charlotte, North Carolina. So there's been a focus on these major cities, and they've deployed border control agents in these urban areas that's not typically their jurisdiction for, say, Border Patrol to be in Chicago, for example. My daughter lives in Chicago, and she said that she's seen Border Patrol riding up and down the river, in Chicago. So that's been alarming for individuals to see. And they've been in paramilitary garb and have been using aggressive tactics on individuals. In Charlotte, they've dubbed that operation as Operation Charlotte's Web, and it's resulted so far in 250 arrests. And they're looking to expand that soon to New Orleans as one of the next cities, and that's underway. So while the claim is, or the assertion is, that it's intended to deport the worst of the worst criminals, right? To get those folks out of the country. But the data is showing that there's been a significant number of people who have been arrested who are not criminals at all. They don't have any criminal records. So the United States has we have permanent legal residents who've been detained, and in some cases, and the administration has also expanded it to include some valid green card holders and visa holders. So it has gone beyond the scope of what was initially indicated, excuse me. So this is really, this crackdown has caused a lot of fear and anxiety in the communities, in immigrant communities, and the communities alike. There's been a lot of pushback across the country against this. This fear and anxiety has caused a lot of immigrant communities to, stay home. To be fearful, to avoid daily activities like going to school, going to church, going to their place of worship, seeking health care, or even talking to law enforcement is frightening, just in general. So public school enrollments are down, and people they're afraid to go to school. So this is a dire situation, as you well know, and something that our member agencies have been looking into, and to try and provide assistance where we can. And these operations have also met with fierce oppositions too, with community leaders across the country and public officials in general. So there have been legal challenges too, and I wanted to just list just a couple of things. The aggressive tactics deployed, there have been federal judges, for example, in Chicago, has determined that ICE breached a 2020 legal agreement where it resulted in the release of several detainees in Chicago, and many hundreds more may be released because of this legal breach. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has permitted the agents to continue their roving patrols in Los Angeles while their legal challenges are pending out in LA. The Supreme Court has also perceived this as a win for immigration enforcement, and it's enabled new strategies to accelerate deportation processes. So all of this is confusing. It's generated confusion and anxiety among immigrant advocates and attorneys who are really striving to comprehend the full ramification of all these changes. While the Supreme Court rulings are have mostly supported heightened immigration enforcement. Some federal courts have really responded by issuing decisions that limit specific tactics. For instance, there was a 2021 ruling that temporarily halted unlawful regulations that restricted immigrant access to justice in the immigration courts. So, however, while these rulings are facing criticism they are potentially also fostering racial profiling and undermining due process for immigrant communities and including U.S. citizens. So there's a lot of chaos going on, as you well know, but that just kind of lays the groundwork for where we are. So what IAOHRA has been involved in, our member agencies out in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York have been directly impacted by this, as you can imagine, and as you've heard on the news, they're always being mentioned. They've been working hard to uphold the laws in their jurisdictions, doing things like providing know your rights, how do you interact with the law enforcement in your community, providing that information to community members and immigrant communities alike, issuing official statements that condemn the actions that are going on and call for dignity and respect for all people. And then also we're continuing to work, and we have always done this, but to create a human rights culture that will resonate across all communities and hopefully expand the reality of what's called human rights cities across our country. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Some of the things that IAOHRA has done in response to this, just in general, immigrant rights are something that national origin protections are covered under all of our laws. And so we held our annual training conference for our member agencies and others just last month in October in Anchorage, Alaska, and adopted a resolution supporting human rights regardless of national origin at that conference. We also held legal updates with university law professor Daniel Cortez, who focused on common forms of immigration relief and a review of what the recent changes were and what practical applications were in the current environment, and also provided resources for immigrant communities. And that information was videotaped as well and is available, should be soon available for our member agencies on our website. We've also, just a few weeks ago, IAOHRA members participated in direct testimony about state and local challenges with respect to these new U.S. immigration policies at the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland. And we were there alongside of the ACLU and members of civil society around the world to talk about what is happening in our country. And specifically what has been happening in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. And those individuals were there who they shared real-time impact in their cities. They're in Geneva just, I think, 2 weeks ago. So that's very, very recent and an opportunity to share with our global partners. So as I mentioned, we work to create a human rights culture, which sounds kind of lofty, but if you think about it, it is an important way to ensure that we are using the universal human rights principles every day in our everyday attitudes, in our values, in our behaviors, in our institutions, and our policies, and then it's woven into everything that we do, and that it's a normal part of our processes. And that's a heavy lift. But so for state and local agencies, it can start at home. It can start, very locally. And, by looking and reviewing policies, by looking at events and activities that you're doing to support your immigrant communities and your communities at large. And so it moves beyond just legal compliance to really a deeper internalization of a commitment to dignity and respect for everybody. So with that, some of the strategies that we're implementing are things like education and awareness that I mentioned, which are a cornerstone of building human rights, and it empowers people really to understand their rights and their responsibilities under the law and their responsibilities to other people and to their neighbors. It can be implemented at schools, at community events, at the workplace. and everywhere within your community. Also, oh, my next meeting has popped up. Okay. I'm going to have to leave in just a moment. Public awareness campaigns is something that are very impactful. One of the things that our Los Angeles does very well, and other communities too, is really public art. And you don't think about that as necessarily having an impact other than it's nice to look at on the wall of a building, but it can really help shape what values your community has. And so you can do it through art, through poetry, through social media, through public events, and really lean in to what's important, what those human rights values are in your community. And so we work to do that with our member agencies and really just disseminating knowledge dissemination. I talked about know your rights information that you can distribute so that people know how to interact if they're put into a situation that they're unsure of and they're not feeling safe. We have anti-hate programs that are very impactful. Again, Los Angeles County Human Relations Commission has pretty much a stellar, top-notch anti-hate program. I encourage you to go look at their website, Los Angeles County Human Relations Commission. Look at their website and what they're doing for anti-hate. They've submitted a statement too that condemns these actions against immigrant communities, and that's something that your commission could do as well if you so chose to. But my last point that I'd like to just share is that working to create you can work to create a human rights culture in your state. Human rights don't trickle down. They really rise up with the people that care about human beings, about the culture, and about the values of our communities. So there are organizations called Human Rights Cities. I encourage you to visit this website, humanrightscities.org, learn more about that. We'll be doing more through IAOHRA on that. There are, I think, Atlanta is the human rights city, Pittsburgh. There are several in our country and others around the world, but they have worked to align their policies, their, everything throughout their jurisdiction leans into human rights principles very purposefully. And so there's not enough time really to talk about that today, but just wanted to put that on your mind as something that you might want to consider doing in your community. And look at how to draw upon those global standards of human rights as values that you want to adopt within your city as well, and within your state. So with that being said, I don't know if there's time for any questions. I do have to step away here in about 5 minutes, but I'm happy to address any questions you might have. I'll stop sharing too.
I guess the first one, can you make your presentation available to us?
Sure, I'm happy. Can I send it to Juan? Can I give you
That'll be
that?
fine. That'll be fine.
I'm happy to do that. And if you have any questions moving forward, want to learn more about it or want to become more involved, just please do reach out. I'm really happy that you invited me here to your meeting today. This has been great. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? Okay, hearing, is there somebody who's getting ready to speak?
No.
Okay. Well, Ms. Warren, thank you for sharing with us. I think as a commission, we're very much interested in terms of how we can shape what our activities in Kentucky ought to be, should be, and as I say, there are continuing areas of concern. And in a very conservative state, we like to know what's going on in the rest of the country, so we know what things we can do,
Right.
and maybe not step across the line. But again, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, sir. You all have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Juan, your next guest.
So our next speakers, we have Colin with the Catholic Charities, and also Catherine Riddle with the Catholic Charities. They're going to share some information what the Catholic Charities is doing to help immigrants and refugees, not just in Louisville, but across the state. And I know that the Catholic Charity, it's a coalition of Catholic charities across the United States. So maybe they can share some information what other Catholic charities are doing in other parts of the country.
Is it okay if I go a little bit off script? Because I think that what the previous speaker said was really important. Kat and I, we've been in this, I've been doing this work for a very long time. Kat is more on the ground. However, I think that a lot of what's happening with immigration now is dehumanizing immigrants, right? Human rights, the word human is used a lot, but I think a lot of the times in our public discourse, when people think about immigrants, they're not thinking about them as humans, fellow humans. So I think also when we're talking about immigration, especially immigration enforcement, we have been told this enforcement is for criminals. This is for hardened criminals. These are people that are violent offenders, and we're not seeing that. I mean, of course, we're seeing that as well, but we're seeing a lot of people this is in Kentucky, subject to what we would call collateral arrests. For example, if immigration enforcement goes to a place that they're looking for somebody that's like a bad actor, and that bad actor is not there, they will start enforcing immigration for whoever is in that vicinity, not even at that address. So that is one aspect of immigration enforcement. The lack of, immigration enforcement is not your typical criminal justice system. There's this thing that's called expedited removal, which is in act. That means that person may never it does not have the right to see an attorney and may never see an attorney, and they may be deported. And as we've seen, deported to a country that they're not even from. Okay. We've seen cases of people being detained that were lawfully present here, but by the way that they looked or the way that they sounded, they were detained. So their human rights were violated by their appearance. And so, I mean, I'm not making this up. These are actual things that are happening. These are things that happen in Kentucky. Another thing specific to the work that we have done is that we work with many Cubans and Haitians. And the reason that we work with Cubans and Haitians is that they are eligible for benefits through the federal government, and they're given immigration status through the federal government. One of the executive orders was to cancel that immigration status for thousands, tens of thousands of people in this state. And that really means that somebody signed up, they had a path to permanency here, and then overnight, they are no longer able to stay, right? We're talking about people that have fled countries like Haiti and Cuba. Haiti is constantly part of civil unrest. It's not a place that you would ever want to have a child live, or you or me or your kids live. And overnight you're like, okay, we said you could stay for a couple of years and find out an immigration status, and then tomorrow you have to leave. And so those are people that were working, those people that were work authorized, and overnight that is gone. And so if those people are encounter immigration enforcement or encounter police that have an agreement with immigration enforcement, they will be detained and deported, probably without seeing an attorney. And so honestly, that is what is actually happening. Also, there are lots of people that are still interacting with the federal government in terms of immigration. So if you need to apply for relief, if you are undocumented and you're trying to make your life right, and you go with your immigration attorney to get your fingerprints taken, there are people, as I have not seen this happen in Kentucky, I've seen it in other states, that, okay, they don't have a status. They've told the federal government, I don't have a status, I'm working towards a status. Those people are being picked up and detained as well. So even the people that are trying to, this constant thing, do it the right way, those people are being detained as well. So I think that when we talk in terms of this is what is affecting people's lives. We're talking people that are, if we're talking about culture, if that's what is people that are culturally like me, but they are, they speak English probably better than I do, to be honest, so, but they have an immigration status, or they may look different than me, right? So I think that that's just really important in the context of human rights when we talk about immigrants now. I'm honestly, I've done this work a lot, and I'm not usually a person to be over the top or raise the alarm on that. I'm seeing some very, very extremely troubling things. And I think that it was mentioned that, you know, that we're seeing this in other states. We will see similar immigration enforcement activities in Louisville, Kentucky, I'm certain. And so I think that what we're trying to do within the context of working with local partners, you all spoke to John Collinger, we've working with local people to be ready for that to happen, you know, because we will see enforcement activities that are going to not just go after criminals, not just pick up drug dealers or what have you. We're talking about moms and dads and kids, separating families. We worked with the Department for Community-Based Services with families that have been separated, like children that are abandoned because of immigration enforcement. That is actually happening in our state as we speak. And so it's just, that's just kind of that's my off-piece big speech, because I think that's important to hear from. And I think we can talk a little bit about some specific things that we've seen, because I think that what the speaker said earlier, there's some things that are applying. So I'll let Kat talk a little bit about warrantless stops. You want to talk about that for a second, and then we can kind of move on.
Yeah, so I'm thankful for Colin for bringing that up, and I think sometimes it can seem bleak for immigrant communities, but I also think it's important to also talk about the things that communities are doing and the grassroots organizing that is happening because of things like warrantless stops, 287G agreements, which are those contracts with local law enforcement and the federal government, federal ICE enforcement. When we see that can really create a culture of fear. And like the previous speaker had said, that can really hit families hard in terms of, you know, not wanting to go to church, not wanting to go to school, not wanting to go to the grocery store. We saw the Nashville bishop came out with a statement fairly recently, getting rid of the obligation to go to mass on Sunday, which is a pretty big deal in the Catholic Church, but for families in Nashville who were fearing deportation. Something else that I would like to speak about that a lot of caseworkers see specifically is mixed family statuses. Families where one parent might be affected by deportation and the child might be a US citizen. A lot of fellow caseworkers have seen instances where a parent who is the primary income provider is detained and they have no income coming into the family, and maybe you have the other parent at home taking care of the children. That creates a lot of financial strain. So not only is it raising some civil rights flags, but it's also truly a financial burden on these families. Oftentimes it can be the decision between a lawyer fee or rent. So that is a pretty bleak thing to look at. But I want to talk about some of the actual work that we are doing and that other organizations are doing to help combat this. One of the things, as the previous speaker had mentioned, is the importance of training on rights and constitutional rights and what those are and how to enact them. A lot of people don't know. I, for one, before starting this job, didn't really know what those would look like. And reminding people that everybody in the United States, regardless of immigration status, has constitutional rights. This is something that I think is overlooked, and Colin had mentioned the dehumanization tactic, and that is truly one of them. So reminding people that they do have rights and what those rights consist of. These are Know Your Rights events are held primarily through community organizations. I work a lot with the church network because oftentimes if families don't feel safe going to a location with people they don't know, they will feel safe, let's say, after mass. So I might attend a Spanish mass and then stay after and offer, hey, if anybody would like to stay after and talk about rights and family plans. So the Know Your Rights is one portion. And then family emergency planning is another really important piece of this. As I mentioned, mixed status families can create a lot of heartbreak on families. We saw in the previous administration, for example, things like kids coming to school pickup and parents not showing up to pick up their kids. And the teachers are like, okay, what the heck do I do with this? And it created a lot of panic. So something that a lot of community organizations have started to enact are family preparedness plans. So that's something that you could compare it to, let's say, like a tornado or a hurricane, and knowing exactly what I would do in this instance, having a family emergency contact picked out so that if, God forbid, you were not able to take care of your child, would that family emergency contact have things like medical, knowing where's the child's doctor, knowing where the child's school location is, being put as one of the pickup people for the school. That's huge. Things like that. We talk a little bit about guardianship, power of attorney. That obviously is done through a lawyer, but then connecting those people to lawyer and lawyer referrals also is really, really important. Another thing that I want to mention is the church networks and grassroots organizations working together. And church networks, by saying that, is truly interfaith, and it's been really cool to watch. Recently, the USCCB, so the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, last week came out with a statement. I believe this was their first statement like this since like 2013, 2012. So it was a pretty big deal, and it was a call to action for churches across the country to get involved in this grassroots work. That being things like accompaniment. People get fearful to go to court because court pickups are happening. People will try to do things the right way, and then they show up to court and then ICE is waiting outside. We've seen that those numbers of detainment are a lot lower when you have somebody accompanying them. So things like accompaniment programs, rapid response networks is another really big thing. We have a team here in Louisville, the Louisville Coalition for Immigrant Support, which does work with rapid response. Because like I said, these families are dealing with real financial burdens as well. Things like food. If you're not comfortable going to the grocery store, how are you going to feed your kids? So groups doing things like rapid response. Court observation is another really big thing in the civil rights world, because lawyers have to know what the trends are and what we're seeing. For example, did they provide an interpreter? Was the person detained after? So people can take a training and volunteer to just sit in court, observe, take notes. So we are seeing real grassroots movement from Louisville and all over the state. I talk with people in Lexington, I talk with people in Owensboro, I've done work in Glasgow, so it's really about trying to pull from all these different parts. But as much as there is the bleakness and people truly, there is a lot of fear, there are organizations trying to help. So I think right now, uplifting those organizations, guiding people who want to get involved to those organizations, really important to not reinvent the wheel if people have already been doing this work. Relying on those experts and also the voices of the directly impacted is huge right now.
I just want to go back to something that was spoken about earlier, and this idea that ICE can enforce with this probable cause. And I think it's real important to just think about, I mean, know that it's hard, but like, who here has their birth certificate on them? Is anybody carrying their birth certificate with them right now? What about your US passport? You have it with you?
I always carry my passport.
See, but, and this is the world we're talking about right now. I don't have my passport, right? I don't have my birth certificate. How is anybody going to know that I'm here legally in the United States? You know, and I think that, you know, when we're talking about immigrants, we're not just talking about Hispanic immigrants, you know, we're talking about people from Haiti. You know, what skin color do people from Haiti have? This is another way that people can be profiled in a way and detained without probable cause. You know, and it's an erosion of our human rights by having extrajudicial, you know, detention and enforcement. So I think that's really important to kind of think about in the context of your own daily lives, right? Is that, you know, just walking down the street and looking a certain way, you know, is cause for somebody to detain you and maybe deport you, you know. And the idea of deporting somebody to a third country, it's like they could send me to South Sudan, right? So I mean, I think that's actually happening. This is not. So I think that's really in the context of Kentucky, I think that we really need to start thinking about how we can get people to know their rights and people to stand up for this kind of justice. So sorry, I'm done with my big speech. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any questions for anyone?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So regarding food and going to the grocery store, and I'm not trying to give ideas, but are you seeing ICE showing up at food banks as well? Like not food banks like for church, because they wouldn't know what
Right.
those are, but like during the care of food banks,
Yeah.
but they know they have a set schedule of people coming. Are you seeing that across the board or anything in other cities or states?
I don't know
that-
what other cities and states look like. I mean, not now, you know, I mean, honestly, like this kind of broad immigration enforcement is not anything that we've seen in Kentucky.
Gotcha.
But yes, as people access, you know, people go to certain grocery stores. I mean, you know, I mean, I think that they go to work, you know, there are certain places in your kind of lived environment that are more subject to that. I mean, schools, you know, you've seen that in other localities where, you know, where it's mandatory. You have to send your kid to school. That's, you know, you have to send your kid to school. But then if schools are not safe, then what are you supposed to do?
I don't think anywhere's safe. I mean, look at what happened in Utah in the airport with that woman, the mother that they detained, and it was awful.
Mhm.
I was flying through there, and it happens in Chicago. I've flown to Chicago. I had someone come to me and say, "Are you Jamaican?" No, I'm not Jamaican, but
Right.
but no, I'm not Jamaican.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen it firsthand. I travel a lot, and I've
Mhm.
seen some horrific things happen. Sad.
Oh, I'm done.
Of course,
Reverend Gaines, go ahead.
oh, thank you. Who decides, what drives where a person is sent when they're exported?
When they're deported?
Deported, yeah, sorry.
I don't really know the question of that. I guess I think that they want to send you to your country of origin, but a lot of people, I mean, we've encountered people that really, you know, if you came here as a child, right? Some people have, you know, they have very complicated lives. They might know that they're Honduran, right? But they don't have any connections with Honduras. They don't know any about that. So, I mean, they will send you back to Honduras, but like, if you don't speak, we're talking about people that don't speak Spanish being, you know, being sent to a Spanish speaking country where they don't have any connections or things. So, I mean, that's a possibility.
I do want to also mention that we have seen people being moved from detention center to detention center, which is another thing we see commonly. So I might have a client detained in Louisiana, and I'm like, how the heck did my client end up in Louisiana? And we have seen people being moved with no rhyme or reason in particular. From the conversations I have, we really haven't been able to decipher that.
Other questions? You mentioned Know Your Rights campaign. What does, you know, I guess we've been given cards that we have distributed in terms of that says Know Your Rights, but what does a Know Your Rights campaign really looks like, and what can an organization do?
Yeah, so there are a lot of really great resources, like train the trainer resources, so that people could possibly do one on their own in their own community organization. The way that I have done ours, I talk frequently with our attorney to make sure that everything's up to date in that sense. It's not legal advice, it's simply how to handle the interaction. The main things with Know Your Rights to remember, you have the right to remain silent. That is a huge one. You know, there is a fear tactic being used by officers. So they might say things in a really demanding tone where people think automatically, oh, I need to immediately pull out my paper. I need to immediately say where I'm from. You have the right to be silent. The other really important educational piece is warrants and the difference between administrative warrants and judicial warrants. Because a judicial warrant would allow ICE to actually enter private property. So for example, if ICE came to my apartment door and said, you know, I have a judicial warrant and I check and it's signed by a judge and it's got the correct date and it has my name written correctly, I would have to give them permission to enter the vicinity. But if it was an administrative warrant, they don't actually have the right to enter. However, usually ICE assumes that people do not know the difference between the two, and I would say hope that people don't know the difference between the two and just has an administrative warrant. People don't know the difference, they let ICE in, and then you have the collateral arrests that Colin was mentioning. So those two pieces are really important.
But sorry, just to add to that, you know, we're happy, you know, obviously we get a lot of calls from Catholic churches and Catholic schools, but we, you know, we are all, we can look at us as a resource. If we can't provide a Know Your Rights training for a community group, in any kind of group, we can find somebody that can, you know, we're very connected within the community. We get together with other community organizations here, and we can look, we're not just talking about Louisville, we can look throughout the state. Okay, and we have seen a very increased like demand in those. I mean, obviously, we're part of the Catholic Church, so we've seen it mainly through Catholic parishes, but wherever that anybody that wants to hear the thing, we can do it to people that are around affected communities, but we can also do it for connect affected communities. Can't speak Spanish, so she can do the presentation in Spanish.
You know, part of the driver for today's presentation was I think several commissioners had questions about, you know, what was going on, but also is trying to figure out as an organization, what can or should we be doing in this space, given that we're trying to protect rights. So I understand, you know, if you're contacting that, but the type of outreach that ought to be taking place that, say, an organization like the Kentucky Commission can provide, you know, what kinds of things are there? What's prepackaged? What's available that can be disseminated to the broader public?
Yeah, I would lean on, there are a lot of great organizations that we get a lot of our materials from for Know Your Rights. So the Immigration Legal Resource Center, ILRC is the name of it. I'm trying to think of ACLU of Kentucky. I've also utilized them before. The USCCB has some great resources on Know Your Rights specifically. So there are, I mean, if you wanted to, let's say, recreate a presentation, or you just wanted to, you know, disseminate information, they have great handouts available in multiple language, all three of those that I just mentioned. So highly recommend sharing those. Obviously, language access is a huge thing as well, so just keeping that in mind when handing out information, but yeah.
I would recommend some sort of train the trainer model, because I think a lot of people that see themselves as leaders are a little bit more protected. Those people are the people that can attend something, hear that vital information, and then go back to their own localities or communities to do that. And we're happy to partner on something like that if the commission would want to pursue that. I'm happy to talk about that.
Chair, if I may add, you asked the question about some of the rights. One thing that I haven't noticed that other groups are doing is to encourage immigrants and refugees who may be stopped or arrested or deported, is to prepare power attorneys for those who have children. So in the event that they are detained, then they have someone else to pick up their children from schools or from other facilities. And as we know that many immigrants and refugees are property owners. So again, they prepare that charge to delegate someone to do the transactions if they have to, or even just if they're pulled over and their vehicles are towed away, in order to get them out from the towing company, they have to be the owners. So if you're not the owners, then you leave that power attorney to someone who can be able to recuperate or get the vehicle back. So those are the basic things a lot of people are already doing, and I've heard and I know quite a few people who have done that and have really served them the purpose to protect their interest and their assets.
Are there any other questions? Well, again, Colin and Kate, thank you for your presentation, for this information, and you can assure that, you know, as we try to figure out what the commission can do and how to do it, we'll be coming back and maybe reaching out to you for asking for some more and figuring out how at least we educate our community, and our community is all of the state of Kentucky. And so we'll see what we can do. So thank you again for that, for your presentation.
And thank you all so much for having us, and thanks for being open to hear what I have to say about it and speak so frankly to you all. I appreciate you all being so receptive.
Okay.
Thank
Do you have a copyright in Lexington?
We have Catholic Charities in Lexington, yes.
Someone who does what you do.
No, but we can talk.
We need to have those old fashioned commercials like how the, you know, Schoolhouse Rock. And they used to talk about the Bill of Rights and we
Yeah.
learn about the Bill of Rights,
Right.
like know your
Yeah.
rights, like those free PSAs.
Yeah. Doris, one of the reasons I asked Ms. Warren about, she had got a presentation, she talked about the Los Angeles County Human Rights Commission hate campaign. I mean, it would very well be some things within that campaign that would be very useful that we could just copy and use here in the state. So we'll see. Okay. Again, thank our guests. Our next item on our agenda is the consideration of the minutes of our says September 18th meeting. That's not right. It's October 18th meeting on the agenda. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes from October 18th meeting?
This is Jim Glenn. I move that we approve the minutes as adjusted.
Okay. Is there's, I think between Roe and Frank, we got a second. So
Yes.
all those in
I'll
favor of
take,
that.
I'll take second position.
With that, may all those in favor signify by saying raising your hand. Probably the easiest way to do it. Okay. And those minutes stand approved. We now move to sections report and we'll begin with the executive director.
Also on the minutes, I apologize, it's October the 16th, not the 18th.
Yeah.
We'll check to make sure that that's changed as well.
There are some other things in those minutes. I'll send you my markup so you'll have that as well.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Wanted to first start out by letting you all know that we have heard from our EEOC partner. We have not heard from our HUD partner, Alisa Kemp, as of yet, but we have heard from Jeremy Sells and EEOC. He reached out to us to verify that we met the contract, and we have vouchered for that. So we are continuing to just work on our work share agreements with both HUD and EEOC. Personnel, we currently have one vacant position, and we are working to determine how we're going to best fit the needs of the agency in determining how that position will be filled. I sent out, Chair, you may not have seen it yet, but I sent out some information to you. At the next commission meeting, we'll discuss that along with the work plan. I've emailed the work plan to you all this morning, but I've also handed out hard copies. In that work plan, it discusses what we plan to do for calendar year 2026. And we're hoping to get your input, your suggestions for the work plan to let us know. It is a draft, and we will work to include what you are hoping for the agency for next year. Status of cases, we had 32 cases that were submitted for review, and they were approved since the last commission meeting. 11 of those cases were employment, 18 were housing, and 3 were public accommodations. Of the 11 employment cases, 10 were no probable cause, and 1 was withdrawn without settlement. Of the 18 housing cases, 15 were no probable cause, 2 were withdrawn with settlement, and 1 was an administrative closure. Of the 3 public accommodation cases, they were all closed, no probable cause. Just to let you know that the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights met with the Louisville Metro Human Relations Commission and the Lexington Human Rights Commission on Monday, November the 3rd. We had a meet and greet, and the purpose of this meeting was just for us to share information among the agencies. We're all doing the same thing. So best practices, what we're seeing now with the communities that we're in, And it was very successful. It has been suggested that we meet quarterly. So we'll be working with that and we'll go to different areas. Well, I think our next one is actually in Lexington. So we will be continuing to work with our partners. One is continuing to work with our local commissions. As we talked about reaching out with our speakers, I'm sure there's something that we can do, especially with train the trainer events for our staff and also for our local commissions, so that they're prepared to address issues in their communities as well. I believe Juan will speak a little bit later about the gallery unveiling that we did for the late J. Michael Brown. That was done on the 14th, I believe, yes, on November the 14th. And I will answer any questions that you may have about my report.
Any questions from any commissioner? So Cynthia, I did get what you sent, read that, and in addition to the work plan distributed, you should also distribute that to all of the commissioners, because I think there's information in there that I think addresses several questions, but also is an update.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One question.
Yes.
On your meeting with the commission in Lexington,
We were here. They came here to us.
Oh.
Louisville Metro and Lexington came here. We met across the street in a building across the street. So we were there 3 hours. We met for about 3 hours.
3 hours, yeah.
Yeah, 3 hours.
Any additional questions for Cynthia? Okay, hearing none, let's go to the finance, budget, and personnel. Brandon?
Good morning. You have my report before you. I will say that is the audio sounding okay? For those in by Zoom, we made a couple changes.
Much improved.
Okay, good. Hopefully, the changes that we made will take care of any problems there. The main thing would be just also, if people were speaking on Zoom, it's going to make it difficult to hear people in the audience. So just, be mindful of, if you're here, wait for the person on Zoom to finish speaking. Now, Cynthia mentioned that we did voucher EEOC a couple days ago. The total was 100. I just had it pulled up. And 24,500 for our case processing, and then 500 for our intakes. So we should be depositing that money in hopefully the next 6 to 8 days, I would guess. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them at this time.
So the 124,500 gets added to the 435,547?
That is, I don't have are you getting that from my report?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I don't have that pulled up, but yes, that is correct.
Which also leads to the question in terms of what Cynthia sent to me is the requests, and you, Cynthia, may want to talk to the requests that we got from the request we got for copies of the work share agreement, but also questions about those funds. And you may want to update the rest of the commissioners on what was included in what you sent me, Cynthia, because I think it's pertinent information that everyone should know.
Okay, I don't have it in front of me, but I think I remember, and Colt, you'll help me as well. What I sent to Chair Bursch yesterday was one, I believe that you all received an email that mentioned that we were terminating the mediation part of the process, the case process. And so what was sent to Chair Bursch yesterday was information about how the process goes, how it went before, how it's currently going now, as far as what happens to a case once it's filed. In short, basically before when a employment or PA case was filed, previously it went to mediation, and then if they were not able to mediate, they went to enforcement for investigation. Prior to the vacancy, the process was changed in that all the employment and PA cases will go directly to enforcement for investigation, first of all. So, but there will be more details on that. In addition to that, Brandon, I don't know if he discussed this in his report or not, but we received a request to put in to have a plan, a reduction plan for the agency. 2% reduction and a 3% reduction. And so we have, in the information that you'll receive will show you our plan for a 2% reduction and a 3% reduction. Whether or not we have a reduction will also play in how we fill this vacant position. The next part of it was we received an email several months ago, I can't remember.
About
June of this year, requesting information about our agency. Going through it.
Well, I don't think we need to talk about that. We recently received an email requesting some information about our contracts with the federal government, HUD and EEOC.
And so what you'll see in the packet that I'll forward to you, you will see copies of our agreements with those entities, with HUD and with EEOC. This, with your permission, this information will be forwarded. This information was requested and we will forward it to the requester. And that's it. But you will get it after the meeting. I'll make sure that that's forwarded to you.
And I guess two additional sort of additions to that is one, that the budget request is a budget reduction in the current fiscal year.
Yes.
So people would know that. And then the second piece of it, the plan to meet that reduction is in fact changing those positions as well. So people would know that's what, so if you taking the vacancy credit for the position not being filled, not being filled, that's one piece of it. And the second piece is a downgrade of the position to a lower level as well. Any questions from any of the commissioners?
This is Jim Glenn. Just one quick question. How long can we hold the resources for the position that is open? Or do we have to ship it back to the state?
We don't have to, I don't think there's a set period of time. I think it's important that we fill it as soon as possible because we don't want them at any time to do a snapshot and realize that we have that vacancy and they take that position. But at the same time, I don't believe in, Brandon, you tell me if I'm wrong, that vacancy savings for 3 or 4 months is not going to do anything. I don't think they're going to do anything during this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not in danger of losing the cap, the position. Couple things. The budget reduction plan is still in draft. They asked me to submit it in draft, so it's not been executed. And it is also potentially continuing on into the next fiscal year, 2 or 3%. And that it did have to be a reoccurring expenditure. So just a few little tidbits.
Yeah, my question, just was, you mentioned, as part of that process where we had mediation as a first step,
Yes.
is now being skipped over to go straight to enforcement.
Yes.
What drives that, if I may ask?
Well, 2 things. One, it was the hope that it would start the investigation sooner, the investigation process sooner. And 2, it may incentivize the complainant and the respondent to possibly come together and meet, because it's already under investigation, that they might be able to come together and come to a conclusion prior to the completion of the investigation.
We think that it will speed things along a little bit where there's no unnecessary delay when parties are trying to get, extensions to filing deadlines and things like that while the case is sitting in mediation. So
the investigation can already been started, and
Right.
interviews and collecting information and all that.
And I think ultimately we've got reason to believe that, many of these cases don't end up being mediated anyway. So it seems as if they shouldn't probably be there to begin with.
Got it.
And
Okay.
you will see in the packet as well, the number of cases that we filed for last year and for this year, and the number of cases that were mediated for last year and so far this year. So it'll give you a kind of a percentage as well.
Okay. You gotta know the summer had a lot of days before something happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that. And that question is probably a very good one to direct lead into what Cedric will talk about the enforcement unit, because one of my question or concern is without having mediation, and I look at the load on all of the enforcement officers, my question is, how does eliminating the step we're talking about going to be impacted by placing additional cases on the enforcement staff? But anyway, let's go with it, Cedric.
All right. Also, good morning, everybody. I'll go ahead and start with answering that question. So what you're seeing number-wise, for one, these numbers are not 100% correct. They're higher. I would say probably 10 to 12 cases higher than what you're seeing on that paper right now. The issue that you're seeing was that we had a lot of people come and go during this time frame of 2025. And one of them had a very decent sized caseload on top of the cases that were coming in consistently. We've also seen a spike as far as enforcement getting cases as well. So I want to be clear that this is not usually a common number that people are carrying consistently, usually was not. But my report in January will have the full caseloads. Also, it'll have a report of how many cases we closed in enforcement. I want to be clear, closing in enforcement, not cases that were PC'd, not cases closed by mediation, and not cases closed by legal, just only what were closed in enforcement. That would be cases that were no probable cause. There would be cases that were administratively closed. We couldn't find the complainant, couldn't find the respondent, or the complainant did not cooperate, or cases that they withdrew because they reached a resolution with the respondent. Yes.
And Cedric mentioned the number of employees that had left or coming back, the changes in his union. In your work plan, the draft of the work plan, you will see that in detail, exactly the number of employees that left, the number that were hired, and how long they were here, et cetera. So that will give you some explanation as to what he's referring to.
And I want to take accountability on one aspect of it. So when it came to getting cases for mediation and we were getting close to the work share agreement and staff was leaving, I did not want to overload the staff. So that was something that I did and made a decision to do, to not overload the staff with just throwing 20 cases. I was getting a lot of cases for mediation, 7, 8 at a time in weeks. And so that was piling up because case filing was going up. So I didn't want to burden them too much with that. So now they're getting basically flooded. And so you're going to see those numbers rise. But I want to be clear, this is not normal or common. Usually you don't have this take place. People leave all these cases hanging over on top of more cases coming in new. So I did want to say that the numbers will look worse probably. When I say worse, I mean it in a good way, but still will look worse than what you're seeing in January, because this is not accurate to currently what's going on right now after this report was done, after I did my report and submitted it a few weeks ago. So that hopefully does that answer the question a little bit?
It gives me some guidance and direction to look at, but go ahead and give your report, because I'm going to ask you to add a couple of things to your report going forward in the future.
Okay. And that's one thing I was going to ask too, is I'm glad you said it, because I was going to ask what y'all want to see in the annual it'll only be from enforcement though. It won't be the agency overall. And also other things you would like to see later in 2026 that you would like to see me, focus on, so y'all can see that.
He said, go ahead.
He said,
sorry. So in the report, I won't be long as far as that goes. 32 cases were turned in. They're rocking. They're getting them in, having a full staff. is great. As far as six, but as you can see, number wise, we can always use more investigators, and I've said that before. They are working as hard as they can in housing, employment, and public accommodation. They are getting to it, and I'm grateful for my staff. I'm grateful for legal and code jumping in when they can to help and doing case panels as far as that goes as well. So honestly, I don't have a lot because my report in January will give an overall view and snapshot of 2025. So I didn't have a lot to really talk about. I go before you today on those numbers. Another thing that my report will say, it will give the protected class that we do the most right now is disability. I don't believe that's going to change to the closing of December. Disability, so that's one thing. And also the number of cases overall that enforcement closed in January. Once again, that does, like I said earlier, doesn't include what happened in mediation, in legal, or PC cases that were taken. Doesn't include those numbers because those were not closed in enforcement. So that's basically my report. Any questions or comments or anything?
Any questions from any of the commissioners? So Cedric, I think it's the ELC or HUD. The new guidelines is that 75% of the cases have to be closed within 100 days. And then 95% of every carryover cases have to be closed in that year. Some way or the other, I'd like for you to incorporate that into the charts or the information you provide so we know what we're on track for doing, okay?
Okay. At 100% cases now, I wanted to say this too. I have heard from HUD. They are dual filing the cases and things like that. I'm getting those emails from HUD since the stopped. So I have heard from HUD in that area and in that aspect of dual filing the cases and things like that. I want to be clear too that the 100%, to my understanding of how I look at it, is only cases that are filed for FY26. So,
right. It's for that period. So we need to be tracking those over the course of the year, so we know whether we're on. Again, I think 75% of the cases filed closed within 100 days, and 95% of those which are carried over to the next year closed in that year. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, education and outreach, Juan.
Thank you, Chair. So you have my report before you. There's a couple of things before I answer any questions. There are a couple of things I would like to highlight. One is on November the 14th, Kat Harlich, the human rights specialist, and I went to Covington to attend an event hosted by Commissioner Ward. The event was great. We made some contacts, and we're gonna do some follow-ups to do trainings and workshops. So on the same date, November the 14th, the Kentucky Human Rights Commission unveiled the 66th poster of the Great Black Kentuckian. This time we unveiled the poster to honor Dr. J. Michael Brown. That was great. Ms. Brown was present to receive a copy of the poster. We could not do this without the assistance of Chair Dr. Bursch. Thank you so much for your help with this one for the commission to unveil this poster. In the past couple months, we have conducted quite a few trainings geared toward local human rights commission. So we had about 5 trainings. The first training is about employment intake and also complaint or drafting charges. The goal of those trainings is to help local human rights commission to conduct effective trainings and also gather all the necessary information to prepare a charge or a housing complaint. The trainings were well accepted. In the process of the training, we show or explain local human rights commissions how to obtain information. For example, where to gather information about property owners, some different public or resources available to the public, how to double check the name of the employer and so on. That will help us. As you have seen the reports, the number of complaints have gone up, and also the complaint that we prepare has has increased as well. Since Cedric mentioned that in January, I'm going to provide you a report of the years of number of complaints, the inquiries that we have received, and number of complaints that we have prepared. I think that kind of give you a glimpse, the percentage wise of inquiries that we receive that actually converts to a complaint or a charge. I like to play with numbers, so that I'm excited about it, to be able to document all these numbers. But you will see those numbers January. What else I have to report? I think that's everything. But well, I'm so happy and encouraged. I'm very inspired and encouraged to see that local government commissions and also you board of commissioners have stepped up to help and reach out to or work with us, with the staff. So I'm proud of the staff of the unit. I call them the mighty intake unit and education outreach. So this year we really focus on the intake. Because again, establish a system, document all the inquiries and the complaints we prepare, and also at the process assist the enforcement unit to gather all necessary documents. For example, if it's a housing, we get a copy of the lease. If it's an employment, we get the appropriate name of the businesses and collect all the records and so on. That will assist the enforcement unit so they don't have to be asking these documents. And again, we doing everything that we can in front of and provide Cedric with all the valuable information that we can collect. So thank you.
Any questions for Juan? Okay, hearing none, let's go to the legal unit. Colt.
Good morning. Couple of notes on the report. A couple of cases on the list for pending resolution. That includes a case that was previously set for trial, 2000H, as well as an employment charge, 9777E. We should expect those to come off the report next in January. Additionally, with respect to the regulatory changes that we've proposed, first, the emergency reg 104 KAR 1010E. We received no request for public participation for a public hearing on that regulation that was scheduled for tomorrow. So we have canceled that public hearing according to statute. We will still receive public comment on the reg through the end of the month. And if you remember, we also filed a identical ordinary regulation 104 KAR 1010. Public hearing is also scheduled in that for that reg on December 22nd. Request should be sent to me by December 15th. If no public comments received on the emergency regulation, we expect to be in Frankfurt before the Administrative Regulation Review Subcommittee December 8th. But like all emergency regulations, it went into effect as the day it was filed. That's all I have. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Colt? Okay, moving right along. There are no committee reports, and under new business, we have potential strategies to protect immigrants' human rights. And I guess, Cynthia, who's going to lead that discussion?
I will start. We started by getting the information from state commissions that are surrounding us in Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Virginia. And what we're asking specifically, or will be asking, we haven't heard or gotten a hold of everyone, is if they've seen any reluctance in hiring refugees, any reluctance or problems with housing or housing providers as it pertains to immigrants and refugees, and any other state issues similar to what we heard earlier this morning from our speakers. So we are still collecting that information. Hopefully in January, we'll be able to give you a report on what we found. on that part.
Anything, any commissioner wants to add to that in terms of what you're looking for, or any expectations or any ideas that you want to share?
Only question I would have, if once you come up with a plan of action, is there a funding source, or are we going to be looking for funding to enforce whatever actions that we decide to take?
As far as I guess it depends on what we come up with. If it's similar to what we heard this morning, i.e. like train the trainer and provide that information to our local commissions and our other partners throughout the state, that may not be a huge budget addition, which we would be able to handle that on what we have. If it's something else that is expected for us to do or that we need to do, we would probably need to seek out other funding for that.
Anything from anyone else? Cynthia, I think I'd like you all to look at the Los Angeles County Human Rights Commission's hate campaign, because I'd like to know more about what's in it and whether there's some things in there that we can pull into what we're doing here. Anything else on the new business? So our next commission meeting will be on January the 15th, which is also, it's not a holiday because I guess the holiday will be the following Monday or the previous Monday. So we're okay with that. But I also call to your attention, sent to us was the calendar for 2026, the meeting dates, as well as the locations. We will be moving around the state this time around, and I ask you to put those dates on your calendar now. And to the extent that you can, we would like to have as many commissioners in person when we take those sessions outside of Louisville, because I think it's important for us to not only have a meeting there, but for us to be seen and present as well. And I think as we talked about those meetings, we were talking about doing some things in addition in those communities with their organizations to do some more things. So let's be very much aware of that and put those dates on your calendar. Is there anything? Yes.
You will also be hearing from staff if we are going to be in your area for one of those commission meetings. We've already started planning for the bowling green. And so Maria and or I or Juan will be reaching out to individuals. If you have suggestions as far as meeting places, if you have hotel lodging, let us know. If not, we'll just start planning for those. We also, if there are local commissions in those areas, we will also be reaching out to those local commissions for participation and any groups or individuals that they feel that we should be inviting when we're in those areas.
Okay. Is there any other matter anyone needs to bring for this commission meeting today? Hearing none, then we adjourn without objections. Thank you all for your time, participation, and to the staff, a very informative meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. You know what I like?